Have you ever pondered why it's commonly believed that elderly people shouldn't visit others? This timeless guidance contains deep insight that can change how you or your loved ones spend your golden years. The sentimental and useful meanings of the proverb are examined in today's film, which also looks at why elders may find that staying at home is a wise decision. Anybody looking to live a satisfying life in their senior years will find resonance in these thoughts, which cover everything from safeguarding your health to fostering mental well-being. We'll give a startling explanation at the conclusion, which may alter your perspective on aging and motivate you to impart this knowledge to the people you love the most. I would like it before we start, you can support me in spreading the old age lesson if you enjoy this video. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. Please leave the first remark if you enjoy this video. Please let me know in the first remark if you don't like it, so I may improve the video for you. Let's get going now. The act of just inviting people to our houses when we were younger was infused with a palpable spirit of happiness and companionship that infused every element of those get-togethers. These gatherings were more than just social gatherings. They were treasured customs that offered a special fusion of coziness, spontaneity, and unadulterated intimacy. Home environments provided a liberating flexibility in contrast to the frequently tight and time-constrained atmosphere of restaurants, where waitstaff interruptions, background noise, and the pressure of bills might hinder the flow of engagement. Friends might effortlessly migrate from the kitchen table to the living room couch or even the backyard terrace, arrive without the formality of bookings, and stay as long as the conversation required. The aromas of home-cooked food, maybe a pot of boiling stew or freshly baked bread, created with love and shared liberally, would fill the air. Discussions would flow naturally, covering everything from day-to-day successes and setbacks to future goals. Philosophical reflections or playful repartee on common experiences. Everyone would feel genuinely recognized and appreciated as laughter reverberated throughout the rooms, forming an imperceptible relationship. Our circle would alternate hosting responsibilities. Through the host's decor, family portraits, or peculiarities, each house visit reveals a little more about their personality. These exchanges weren't fleeting. Authenticity was paramount, and they were founded on a foundation of sincerity. Sincerity, openness, and respect for one another are the foundations of true friendship, in our opinion. And these get-togethers at home strengthened that conviction, creating bonds that seem deep and lasting. But as the decades have passed, we have seen a significant and rather depressing change in social conventions that has changed the foundation of our interpersonal relationships. A prevalent culture of superficiality, pretense, and theatrical interactions seems to be displacing the sincerity we once valued so highly, the unadulterated honesty that allowed us to be our true selves. Like rare artifacts in a museum of ephemeral trends, real people who value depth above presentation have become endangered in this day and age of social media facades and well-manicured online personas. External influences often challenge and destroy the values we held dear as children, including friendships and honesty, and the confidence to show our actual feelings. The age-old adage, "Those who approach red become red, and those who approach ink become black," has never had greater resonance and can be used as a metaphor to explain this change. It demonstrates how our environment, the people we spend time with, and the cultural trends we encounter can all quietly but irrevocably mold our beliefs, attitudes, and actions, frequently dragging us away from our true selves and towards conformity or cynicism. It is scarcely surprising that our perspectives on friendship have changed significantly in the modern world, which is marked by constant busyness, electronic distractions, and an increasing emphasis on independence. A more cautious approach, where personal spaces are viewed as sanctuaries not to be easily shared, has supplanted the once common habit of opening our houses to friends. Many relationships now linger on the surface, maintained by sporadic messages or social media likes, rather than deep in-person interactions, as our expectations for the depth of connections have decreased. It has become commonplace to put on a facade of civility, with polished smiles, prearranged compliments, and averted confrontations, which frequently conceals underlying disinterest or unsolved conflicts. It's not only a personal change. Economic pressures that leave little time for hosting, more mobility that disperses friends across cities or nations, and a heightened awareness of privacy in an era of oversharing and surveillance are all examples of broader societal changes that are reflected in this. Because of this, friendships may seem more ephemeral and less established, lacking the firm foundation that house visits historically offered. Let's examine the life of Mr. Lee, a 50-year-old man whose path reflects the silent reflection many people go through as they age, to demonstrate this growth. Mr. Lee has developed a penchant for solitude over the years, turning what could appear to be loneliness into an intentional embrace of tranquility and independence. His everyday schedule serves as an example of attention and simplicity. When he decides to stay at home, he may begin with a leisurely breakfast while reading a history or philosophy book. He then proceeds to his tiny garden, where he plants seasonal vegetables or carefully prunes roses. Finding solace in the natural rhythm, he enjoys a cup of freshly brewed green tea on his veranda in the afternoons, while he looks thoughtfully at the passing scenery. When the mood strikes, he goes out for solo pursuits, like fishing at a peaceful lakeside location where the sound of a line tugging and the soft lap of water create a meditative getaway, or taking a vigorous stroll in a neighboring park. Social gatherings are rare and well-planned. He avoids the intimacy of home invitations by seeing acquaintances almost always at a public cafe or a quiet, neutral location, like a restaurant. His family members are intrigued by this apparent distance and frequently ask about his apparently solitary way of life, asking if it's an indication of discontent or alienation. Mr. Lee responds with patience, explaining that changes in viewpoint and lifestyle are inevitable with aging. His viewpoint has been widened by the accumulation of life events, including achievements, setbacks, joys, and tragedies, which has enabled him to identify what is most important. Social events were essential to his energy and sense of belonging when he was younger. But now that he has the benefit of hindsight, he understands that many of those encounters were brief or required and lacked the substance to survive the test of time. He now places more importance on inner fulfillment, the peaceful pleasure of fishing, which teaches patience and acceptance, the profound fulfillment of caring for his garden as a metaphor for human development, or the calm joy of solitary pastimes. He values spending time with his close family above all else. The relationships feel healthy and unbreakable, whether it's over dinners with a spouse, storytelling sessions with grandchildren, or peaceful evenings spent watching sunsets together. He has gradually separated himself from the frenetic world of social events. Mr. Lee has decided to pursue the freeing path of solitude, where he can freely explore his thoughts and live on his own terms without being constrained by outside expectations. After realizing that the frequent comings and goings of acquaintances do not equate to true friendship. Elderly people, who frequently establish customized rhythms and routines that suit their changing requirements and wants in later life, exhibit a strikingly typical pattern of embracing isolation and re-evaluating social habits. Many people grow more reluctant to visit other people's houses when their physical vitality wanes and their priorities shift, because they perceive such outings as possibly taxing or out of step with their comfort zones. There may be some inconveniences due to the strange surroundings of someone else's home. One's sense of comfort may be disturbed by disparate timetables, differing degrees of neatness, or even subtle cultural and hospitality disparities. Furthermore, the work required to get ready for a visit, travel, and adjust to someone else's place might seem excessively demanding, particularly when compared to the comfort and authority of one's own home. As a result, an increasing proportion of senior citizens choose to reduce these visits, instead choosing to stay in touch via less intrusive methods such as phone conversations, video chats, or sporadic trips to public areas. Please let me know in the first remark below whether you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you, thanks to your support. Alright, let's proceed. This tendency for infrequent social visits is influenced by a number of interconnected factors. The first of these is the belief that these trips may unintentionally cause disruptions. Every family has its own distinct dynamics, routines that an outside guest may inadvertently disrupt, such as eating, working, or relaxing. As people age, they frequently experience an increased feeling of accountability because they realize they are now acting as representatives of their own families, rather than just as individuals. The host spouse, kids, or other family members may not always enthusiastically accept a friend's invitation that was sent out of courtesy or social convention. There's always a chance that the visit may be perceived as an imposition, which could tarnish the connection with underlying animosity or awkwardness. The experiences of Uncle Ma, my friendly next-door neighbor, provide a powerful illustration of this complexity and serve as a warning about the dangers of overly active social hobbies in later life. Uncle Ma, who is now in his 60s, is a kind man who loves to tell stories, eat delicious cuisine, and most importantly, drink, which brings back memories of his wilder, younger days. He frequently bemoans the absence of frequent company for these pleasures, making every chance to enjoy a drink seem like a unique present. I happened to run into a high school buddy in our neighborhood one day and discovered that he lived only a few blocks away. I'm 60 now, so the reunion brought up a lot of memories, and the classmate kindly asked Uncle Ma and me to his house for a casual dinner and beverages. Uncle Ma saw this as a great opportunity. The idea of revisiting the past while sipping his favorite whiskey made his eyes light up. Uncle Ma jumped enthusiastically into the arrangement. On the weekends, he would make a few handmade meals, like marinated meats or spicy stir-fried veggies, then show up to his classmate's door with a bottle in hand, ready to engage in lively conversation for hours. Reminiscences about school pranks, past loves, and life lessons learnt filled the cheerful beginning of the gathering, but faint indications of unease started to show. The wife of his classmate would greet them with a courteous but odd grin, her body language suggesting uneasiness, possibly a quick check of the time or a hasty excuse to take care of housework. Uncle Ma, always the optimist and maybe a little blind in his enthusiasm, ignored these signs and concentrated instead on the happiness of friendship. Uncle Ma visited every few days for several weeks, bringing gifts of food and beverages to make the occasion more enjoyable. The issue reached a breaking point during one such visit. After a particularly intense session, his classmate pulled him aside and confided with a mixture of honesty and sorrow. "You come to drink every weekend, and although I like spending time with you, my wife and kids have voiced serious worries. They see a disturbance in their everyday routine. Our family's rhythm is disturbed by the loudness and the long hours." Uncle Ma, who had taken the original invitation as an open invitation, took the remarks like a soft but forceful blow. He had assumed that everyone in the home valued his presence as much as his old friend did, but he hadn't thought about the wider effects. Uncle Ma went through a period of introspection after coming to this realization, which taught him the value of observing social cues and respecting limits, even when they are shared by longtime friends. The prospect of inactivity or extreme loneliness, where days pass aimlessly without meaning or human connection, is one of the most heartbreaking anxieties of aging. Therefore, finding a conversation partner, a neighbor for everyday conversations, a friend for infrequent get-togethers, or an old classmate for sentimental conversations can bring new life and happiness. As anchors, these exchanges help to organize time, keep the mind active, and prevent the loneliness that can come with retirement or reduced mobility. However, as Uncle Ma's tale demonstrates, pursuing this kind of social fulfillment is not without its difficulties. Although enlightening, frequent visits may have unforeseen consequences. An offensive joke that is misunderstood, an excessive amount of familiarity that causes tension, or just the host's resources being overworked and wearing them out. The very relationships one tries to cultivate might be undermined by misunderstandings that turn into arguments. Finding a balance is therefore essential. Social relationships stay constructive and long-lasting when meaningful connections are maintained while respecting the space and preferences of others. The life of Miss Wong, a lively retiree who lives upstairs in my building and whose experiences further underscore the complexity of aging and relationships, echoes this subject of caution in social connections. With her vivacious personality and contagious enthusiasm, Miss Wong has developed a deep love for the privacy of her comfortable flat, where she loses herself in the engrossing world of television dramas. She spends her days binge-watching complex plots of romance, intrigue, and family sagas, frequently while sipping herbal tea and knitting blankets. This decision is the result of several previous disputes that had a lasting impact, especially with her daughter-in-law. On one memorable occasion, Miss Wong's well-meaning advice on domestic concerns was interpreted as interference, and a seemingly harmless visit to a friend's house descended into a furious argument. The consequences were severe and quick. Caught in the midst, her son gave her a severe reprimand, accusing her of crossing lines and causing tension in the family. These occurrences, along with other comparable encounters, have made Miss Wong more cautious about entering other people's houses out of concern about possible rejection or misunderstandings. Her soul is still unders despite this prudence. She enthusiastically launched herself into community activities after retiring from a lengthy career in education, especially square dancing in the neighborhood park. There, surrounded by other elderly women, she spins and moves to lively music, her laughter echoing as she makes informal connections with them through rhythmic synchronization and snack conversations after the dance. This activity offers a secure way to interact with others. She can experience human interaction without the intimacy or dangers of house visits because it is public, time-bound, and minimal commitment. The story of Miss Wong emphasizes an important lesson. Selective participation in group activities can provide a rewarding compromise, maintaining one's calm while preventing isolation, even though solitude can be a haven. Considering Mr. Lee's, Uncle Ma's, and Miss Wong's stories, it becomes clear that a complex interaction between individual histories, societal changes, and evolving internal goals influences the change in social habits in later life. In times of true connection, the openness and sincerity that once fueled our childhood friendships may still flutter, but they are frequently tempered by life's cumulative knowledge, which instructs us to conserve our energy and prioritize quality over quantity. For many, choosing to limit visits or prefer isolation is a deliberate reorientation towards respect and self-care rather than a categorical rejection of friendship. As we get older, we realize that genuine connections last because of empathy and understanding rather than continual presence. We can reclaim joy in the little genuine moments as we navigate these transitions. Whether it's in a dancing group's shared laughter, the peaceful contemplation of a garden, or the infrequent emotional reunion that serves as a reminder of the lasting strength of genuine connections. In the end, this progression asks us to reinterpret friendship according to our own standards, embracing the liberty to live completely in the here and now, free from the constraints of the past. Miss Wong and her loyal group of friends are forced to grudgingly give up their favorite outdoor dancing on rainy days, when the skies over the sleepy seaside town of her childhood, which is now a busy suburb, are darkened with heavy clouds and the constant patter of raindrops turns the streets into shimmering rivers. Such weather makes it impossible to hold the dancing sessions, which are usually held in the open square shaded by old banyan trees, where the air hums with the melodies of classic folk tunes and the coordinated steps of silver-haired partners. Rather, these strong women who have shared decades of life's highs and lows resort to a reassuring substitute, taking turns going to each other's houses. These visits are a treasured custom that serves as a link between their hectic days and the peaceful reflection that rain frequently encourages. They eat platters of homemade dumplings stuffed with shrimp and chives, beautiful porcelain bowls of warm kanji topped with pickled veggies, and steaming cups of oolong tea in comfortable living rooms decorated with faded family portraits and the subtle aroma of incense from ancestral altars. Like the rain outside, their chats, which are interspersed with laughter and the occasional sigh of nostalgia, flow in different directions, deep and illuminating at times, light and refreshing at others. Please let me know in the first remark below whether you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. All right, let's proceed. The group arrived at Mr. Lowe's small two-story home one very rainy afternoon. With its shelves brimming with yellowed books on Chinese history and herbal treatments, and its wooden flooring creaking underfoot, the house radiated the peaceful appeal of old-world simplicity. As they sat in shabby armchairs, the steam from their teacups curling upward like whispers, The rain drumming a steady rhythm on the tin roof provided a calming background. Before finally settling on Mr. Lee's experiences with his daughters-in-law, the conversation veered from the health advantages of ginger tea to the changing roles of women in contemporary society. Feeling the ease of a long-standing acquaintance, Miss Wong made a seemingly casual remark regarding her own family dynamics in this private situation. Attributing it tactfully to the difficulties of marrying an only child, she commented on her daughter-in-law's apparent lack of initiative in home chores, possibly failing to notice when the kitchen counters needed to be wiped down or the laundry needed to be folded. According to her, only children, who are frequently the only recipients of parental love and support, may get a little pampered as they grow up and become used to having things done for them, which could cause minor conflicts in marriage. She used a light tone and a smile that seemed to be meant as a moment of empathy between classmates who had experienced comparable familial situations. Miss Wong never would have imagined how her remarks would affect others. Confidentiality is brittle in tiny towns like theirs, where neighbors share walls and tales spread quickly via phone conversations or fortuitous meetings at the neighborhood market. The comment somehow reached her daughter-in-law, either as a result of Mr. Lee's well-meaning recounting to his own family or an overheard excerpt during a phone call. Without the original context, the comment changed its meaning, turning from a harmless remark into a caustic criticism. To her daughter-in-law, a diligent young lady juggling family responsibilities and a full-time teaching career, it implied laziness or ingratitude, which felt like a direct attack on her character. Once there had been comfortable banter over dinner preparations, the misunderstanding developed like a storm and created an unseen barrier in their home. Miss Wong was devastated when the tension became apparent. She set up a private discussion in the bright kitchen of the family. The scent of the evening meal's simmering chicken stock is still present. She spoke in a shaky voice, explaining what she intended to do. The remark was a brief thought, one of several idle exchanges in a friendly meeting intended to foster understanding rather than offense, and it was not a condemnation. However, her daughter-in-law, whose eyes were brimming with unshed tears, spoke with a cold reserve, curt, her stance tight as though she was protecting herself from more pain. When Miss Wong's son, a handsome guy in his 40s who was an engineer and frequently arbitrated family disputes, stepped in, the scene became more heated. He gave his mother a sharp but gentle scolding, saying that she was gossiping and that this could cause strife in the home. His remarks were as painful as rain on a window pane, and Miss Wong withdrew to her chamber to consider the unforeseen repercussions of her candor. This incident left a lasting impression on Miss Wong's mind and served as a sobering reminder of the vulnerabilities that come with social visits. A day that was supposed to be one of consolation and camaraderie instead descended into emotional strife, highlighting the ease with which even well-meaning remarks may be misunderstood in the echo chamber of familial relationships. From that day on, Miss Wong was more circumspect in her dealings, considering her dance classes to be an unadulterated form of friendship. Communication took place through gestures and shared energy instead of spoken words on the dance floor, amidst the whirl of vibrant skirts and the lively tempo of period music. She started to promote little talk in social situations because she thought it could prevent miscommunication and foster enduring peace. She saw dancing as a metaphor for leading a healthy life, not just a kind of exercise, harmoniously moving without the possibility of verbal blunders that could throw relationships off balance. Beyond the traps of misunderstandings, the different economic circumstances that subtly influence interactions within a community add another level of complexity to social visits. Home visits can reveal hidden financial inequalities in neighborhoods where families have lived together for many generations. Disparities in wealth resulting from inheritance, professional choices, or pure chance can cause an unspoken rift even between people who have similar cultural backgrounds and holiday customs. When a wealthier family hosts, their house may unintentionally display signals of wealth, such as sleek marble countertops, a modern kitchen filled with foreign appliances, or a dining table that is groaning under the weight of exotic fruits and gourmet dishes like bird's nest soup and abalone. Even though they are presented with hospitality, these displays have the potential to create sentiments of superiority and inadequacy, which may make a straightforward visit into a psychological minefield. Consider a situation where a more affluent host presents a lavish spread of dim sum from a fancy restaurant, complete with crystal cups and elegant tablecloths. Because their own homes lack such luxury, the less wealthy guests, possibly pensioners living on meager pensions from industrial jobs or small businesses, may experience a subtle twinge of jealousy or self-consciousness. Anxiety arises from reciprocating. They risk going over their budget if they extend an invitation, which could cause avoidance or resentment. These differences eventually lead to a psychological imbalance where the pleasure of connection is undermined by unconsciously made comparisons. The elderly may experience this tension particularly keenly due to a lifetime of societal expectations based on confused principles of harmony and face-saving. Memories of difficult times may be brought back by a visit, intensifying feelings of inadequacy or igniting jealousy that smolders beneath courteous smiles. In terms of psychology, these kinds of comparisons are consistent with the social comparison theory, which holds that people evaluate their own value in relation to others, frequently resulting in emotional suffering in unfair situations. This can be made worse by frequent visits between impoverished families, which can turn social connections from consoling to taxing. This strain is heightened around holidays. Lunar New Year and other celebrations were traditionally marked by lavish visits. Children were given red envelopes stuffed with crisp cash, and families were decked out in red, eating feasts of pineapple tarts and longevity noodles, and trading mandarin oranges for good fortune. Once the highlight of the year, these traditions were derived from ancient agrarian societies to fortify links within the community. However, a significant change has taken place in the 21st century due to the stresses of global economy and the fast pace of urbanization. Nowadays, a lot of people choose to spend these times alone at home, lounging in their pajamas. They browse through family photos on their iPhones or binge-watch historical dramas on streaming sites. This is a reaction to contemporary fatigue, the toil of lengthy commutes, dual-income households, and the digital overload of perpetual connectivity. Not a rejection of cultural legacy. Socializing, which used to be a break, now feels forced and exhausting, particularly when it involves the possibility of confrontation or comparison. In our fast-paced age, when life moves at the speed of a high-speed rail, seclusion provides a counterbalance, a place to rest without the theatrical elements of visits. Please think about adding a remark with the number 2 to indicate your interest if you're still following along with this story and learning from these reflections. Your comments encourage more research into how we negotiate the complex web of interpersonal interactions, in addition to confirming the story's resonance. As we move through the later stages of life, the acceptance of isolation becomes increasingly important. Young people often mistake isolation for loneliness, a gap that needs to be filled with continual activity and approval from others. The highlight reels of friendships and parties on social media, which magnify the cultural narrative, portrays a small social circle as a personal weakness, leading many people to seek for flimsy relationships out of fear. But as the years pass and the lessons learnt from failures and successes are accumulated, isolation becomes a valuable asset. It is a conscious act of self-companionship that provides a rich environment for reflection, innovation, and development. It turns into a place to rediscover passions, perhaps write down long-forgotten dreams, or nurture a herb garden that produces mint and basil for teas. It is far from a place of solitude. This realization is freeing, releasing us from the constraints of society and enabling us to concentrate on living a genuine life. The sanctity of close family members becomes increasingly important as life's tapestry becomes more complicated, woven with threads of health issues, retirement adjustments, and the poignant changes in family responsibilities. An anchor of fulfillment that casual acquaintances cannot match is provided by the deepening of the intense love for spouses, children, and grandkids. During this stage, a greater investment in familial ties is made possible by a lack of concern for the superficialities of the outside world. Unbreakable bonds are forged over calm evenings spent watching the sunset or over meals together. Please let me know in the first remark below whether you're still watching this video and finding these ideas helpful. To ensure you don't miss any videos, I advise you to subscribe and turn on the bell if you haven't already. We can keep producing high-quality content to educate and uplift you thanks to your support. All right, let's proceed. However, the demands of regular home visits might put even these fundamental bonds to the test. Scrubbing every nook and cranny, finding supplies for a multi-course meal, and maintaining energy for hours of discussion can be too much to handle, especially for elderly people with arthritis or less endurance. The mental strain of making sure guests are comfortable turns hosting from a pleasure into a work. Choosing neutral locations is a transformative way to lessen this. Picture a community park picnic with blankets spread under cherry blossoms where laughter can flow without the pressure of perfection, or a quiet tea house with a view of a lotus pond where the sound of the water and the clink of porcelain create a backdrop for leisurely conversation free from household chores. A deep void is left behind as people age due to the inevitable loss of friends moving to far-off cities, loved ones passing away from disease, or the gradual waning of once vibrant relationships. Here, accepting isolation is a sign of resiliency and a path to inner strength. It entails redefining time spent alone as an opportunity. Meditation on life cycles in the mornings, reading classic literature such as Lao Tzu's writings in the afternoons, or stargazing in the evenings to reflect on life. This adjustment strengthens our emotional fortitude, enabling us to gracefully handle unforeseen circumstances in the future. When accepted, solitude may be a source of peace, a haven from the chaos of life, fostering introspection and a healthy internal conversation. It gives us the strength to face the difficulties of aging head-on, from bodily weakness to existential concerns. As we get to the end of this investigation, motivated by Miss Wong's moving story and the diverse perspectives on social dynamics, economic undertones, and the elegance of isolation, take a moment to think. What insights have emerged regarding the passage from boisterous youth to reflective old age? In what ways do these stories alter your views on self-care, empathy, and boundaries? Maybe you've thought about using these teachings, limiting visits to maintain tranquility, or creating solitary routines for rest. Share your thoughts, and let's explore the art of leading a meaningful life in a world that is changing all the time. That concludes the explanation for the statement that one should not visit others in old age. We've discovered the sincere justifications for this age-old wisdom, which range from conserving energy to giving physical and mental wellness top priority. We'd like to hear from you now. Which important lesson will you apply in your life as a result of watching this video? Let's start a meaningful discourse by leaving a comment below. For more life-changing thoughts, remember to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you enjoy this video, please leave a comment below.